I don't think I'll ever get tired of that.
No, you're right. It is really hard not to dance to.
That's not Crafty still, though, is it? It's way too clean.
Oh yeah, no, he Crafty wasn't involved in it at all.
That's why it's the best part of the show.
That's it. Absolutely. He probably is watching right now.
I hope so.
We'll just throw him under the bus. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aussie Craft Distillers Shooting the Shit, the show where, well, we talk shit with people who know shit. I think that makes sense, doesn't it? I'm Luke. We normally have Crafty here, but he's he was busy and then now he's not, so we just told him not to come back. Instead, we have the lovely Ali.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Sucked in, Crafty. I'm taking your job.
Much more professional. She was here on time. Actually has good audio, knows what she's doing. I think permanent replacement is on the cards.
Watch out, Crafty. Count your days.
We're so much more relaxed going into this one.
100%. Of course, we've got Todd with us as always. How are you, Todd?
Oh, fantastic.
I love your background.
Thank you.
Finally did away with the brown door.
Yes, finally got rid of the brown door.
And actually showing off your booze.
Well, it's better than the cupboard it was in.
Absolutely. And of course, our guest for this evening, Tim Stones from Hickson House. How you going, Tim?
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful to have you. The first thing we generally do when we get started is, what are you drinking? So, Tim, what do you got?
I am drinking a wee dram of a whiskey I made a few years ago from my own personal cask.
Right.
Wow.
And if that's not a flex, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I don't know what it is either.
Flex it. Work it. Work it. So tell us about the cask. What is it?
It was it's nearly dead now. It's a 20-litre bourbon cask, and it was one of the early iterations of the whiskey I made when I was at Manly Spirits.
Right.
And I still have a few bottles left, which is
nice.
Surprising.
Is it better than the current Manly Spirits releases, or?
I couldn't possibly comment because I actually haven't tasted any of the current Manly Spirits releases.
Oh, right. They're all based off your original recipe, though, are they?
I do believe what they are currently releasing will be what I made, yeah.
Right.
Excellent.
Awesome. Well, that's cool. Ellie, what have you got?
What do I have? Okay, I've got some delicious potion that is made of rum, some sort of juice, some falernum, and it's in this really cute pineapple glass. Look at that.
What's falernum?
It's a kind of like tropical tiki kind of style of syrup that's like quite herbal but quite sweet at the same time. Once you have it, it's just really hard not to live without it anymore. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, when I come to your bar, I'm going to have to try that.
Oh, definitely. Please do.
I've never heard of it.
Excellent.
Learn something new every day.
Well, you've heard of it today, so.
Awesome.
So, shameless plugs. What bar are you referring to?
My new bar, House of Spirits.
A bar? Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, no, that wasn't the one I was thinking of. But yeah, tell us about that one while we're there.
This bar. No, this is my home bar.
Oh, yeah, House of Spirits. House of Spirits, which has just opened up.
Oh, yeah. So House of Spirits has opened up. So previously we've just been a distillery, but now we also have an on-premise bar as well, House of Spirits, where we champion Australian spirits as well. And we do cocktails, we host nights, and yeah, celebrate local produce and everything good. So come on down.
And it's one of the prettiest places I think I've ever been to.
It's pretty good.
It's pretty.
Thank you.
Todd, what's in your glass?
I'm sticking with the old Anayo
Good
from Black
choice.
Snake.
Lovely.
Nice.
I'm really enjoying this. They're making a really great tequila.
Yeah.
Now that I've started to go down that rabbit hole.
Agave spirit. Agave spirit. Let's just make sure.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, agave.
Agave spirit.
Not tequila.
And Rosemary will probably jump on and say hi later as well.
Yeah.
I went to the shops and I found a really pretty bottle, and that's what sold me. And it's Tread Softly gin from that's blown out like crazy. Tread Softly gin from Victoria. That's all I know. It's a very pretty floral bottle, and it's very appley, like green apple, is what I'm getting from it in my my iceless G&T. I forgot to rebuild the ice tray. So.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm drinking whiskey and not gin and tonic. I didn't think I could come on a podcast and go, "Here's my iceless G&T," but I wish I had now.
Yeah, look, there's no rules. There's no rules. You can drink it however it's available to you. I prefer it with ice.
Room temperature.
At least my tonic was cold, so
yeah,
redeeming. Warm tonic is just something I can't. It's not right.
No, it's not right.
You need to be thirsty to drink that.
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
It's not quenchable.
I have actually had my fair share of warm gin and tonics living in the tropics for a little while, and you were a little unsure about the ice, so you're like, the whole the ice, and kind of got used to warm quinine for a while. Not very proud of it.
That's a warm bitterness that I don't think you would really get anywhere else.
No, apart from my last relationship.
Right, that's the end of the podcast. Thank you very much. So, Tim, tell us, who are you? We know that you were at Manly. We know that you're now at Hickson House.
Yep.
Well, you may not know that.
Well, the title of the episode kind of alluded to it, I guess.
Who reads stuff nowadays?
I'm actually quite impressed with my professionalism that I'm branded this evening. So,
Yeah, I keep forgetting to wear our damn t-shirts. Keep forgetting. So, yeah, tell us, how did you start? Was there something before Manly? How did you?
Oh yeah, a fair bit actually, a fair bit. I suppose very long story short. I'm an ex-bartender basically. I was lucky enough to work in a couple of the best bars in the world at the time during my tenure as a bartender in London, and I kind of gravitated towards the whole gin thing. Bar I used to work at, people used to come and ask for a drink. You ever wanted a gin drink? You go, okay, go upstairs and see Tim. He'll make you the best gin drink in the bar. And I kind of fell into becoming the global brand ambassador for Beefeater Gin.
Not a small brand at all.
No.
But it's relatively well known. And it was only supposed to be a 6-month contract, and I ended up being there for 8.5 years.
Wow.
Traveling the world, drinking and talking about gin for a living.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds terrible.
Well, it was a funny one because it was obviously a fantastic job, but it took its toll on relationships and friendships and things, being away for sort of 6-7 months of the year at a time.
Oh right, okay. So that's a lot of travel. Yeah,
ridiculous amounts. Actually, and you know what? Its parting shot actually was that I left and I thought, oh, you know what? I've actually got out of this unscathed, and 2 days later I got gout. So it had its sort of downsides. It was a wonderful job, and I loved it. But it took its toll. But while I was there, I kind of spent a lot of time at the Beefeater Distillery around the distillers and Desmond Payne, specifically the master distiller, and also Sean Harrison, who was the master distiller at Plymouth. And the more I spent there, the more I was like, actually, you know what? I could probably this would probably be a good idea to kind of retire into, kind of thing.
Right.
Kind of making gin, and just kind of did my GCD there. And I was actually fully prepped to go and actually work for Beefeater as a distiller.
Right.
But I met an Aussie girl, and she persuaded me to trade in the northern beaches for southeast London, and took me all of 30 seconds to decide, and here I am.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
So what is the best gin drink in the world?
Oh, that's an invitation to a fist fight if ever there was one.
Good thing it's all virtual.
Yeah.
The best gin drink in the world, probably.
Well, if punters are being directed to you to say, go upstairs, see Tim, and he will make you the best gin drink, and they say, all right, give me the best. What are you preparing?
You'd have to ask a few questions first, really. So, I mean, I've been a martini drinker for years, because I think you drink a martini, there's nowhere for the gin to hide. So you've got, it showcases the gin. But I mean, this was the time where this was kind of like the early 2000s, where vanilla sugar and passion fruit syrup and stuff reigned king. So if you actually made something quite simple, like a white lady, it was quite an elegant, sort of quite balanced drink, that tended to win people over. So, but you know what? Whatever's in front of you is the best gin drink there is.
Indeed. I said no, Crafty is not. We had a comment before from Nick. Hope no, Crafty is not getting my ice. He should, but he's being lazy. I don't know. He's doing something else. I love that little pineapple, Ali. That's brilliant.
Oh, thank you. I've had it for so long, and I've only ever used it on Pina Colada Day. So I'm so happy that I'm able to crack it out again.
Is that one of the Cocktail Kingdom ones?
No, this is just like a $9 one from eBay. Yeah,
Cocktail Kingdom.
Not food grade. You don't question it.
It's not the one from Wish. It's all good.
Oh, that's all right then. So you come over to Australia, Northern Beaches. I'll let that pass. Inner West is best, as far as I'm concerned, anyway.
Western.
Well, obviously, Central Sydney, the mountains, a whole separate thing. We won't get into that argument.
Smart.
So, no. I disagree. I'm sorry, I disagree.
If you like rain, it's fine. Although La Nina notwithstanding.
No, we can't complain about the rain in recent times or we can't bag them out for the rain because we've had fucking all of it. I couldn't get over it. Yeah.
I've got to say, as an Englishman, when I wake up in the morning and I see the rain, I get really, really resentful. Not why I moved here.
Come here for this shit. So how did Manly come about?
Well, I met Caroline Childerley when I was at Beefeater, the Gin Queen, and we became friends. And I told her that I was moving out here and I always, I'd had this plan to sort of retire, inverted commas, into distilling. I say inverted commas because I've worked harder in the last 5 years than I ever had in my life. But I sort of, just said, look, can you keep your ear to the ground for a distillery that wants somebody who knows the theory, has absolutely no practical knowledge whatsoever, and is pining for his expense accounts. And she very kindly ended up putting me in touch with the guys who own Manly Spirits, David and Vanessa, and they very kindly gave me a job.
Wow.
Yeah.
No experience, but all the theory, and distilling in a brand new, ridiculously beautiful
industrialist
distillery. Yeah.
And when you
Right.
started working at Manly Spirits, were they doing whiskey straight away, or were they just doing gin at the time?
Well, no, the plan was always kind of gin, and that's pretty much why I moved there. But there was obviously the plan to do whiskey as well, which I can't really recall whether that was actually mentioned in my job interview or not, because I worked up. Like, whiskey, okay. Yeah, so you know, we got the place up and running, and we did the gin recipes, and I think they went over pretty well. I mean, to be honest, I was super stoked because, you know, a guy who's actually never run a distillery before or done anything like that. We ended up winning double gold at San Francisco for the first for the Aussie Drive.
Well done.
Yeah, which was
round of applause.
about 5.5 years ago now, but it was kind of like, oh look, maybe I have made the right decision here. But then we were making whiskey as well, but and that was a big challenge, it has to be said. I basically kind of learnt to brew over the phone with one of the guys from Four Pines.
Right.
Excellent. And so were there any kind of, when you were learning how to do whiskey, was there any sort of kind of major incidents, like mistakes and stuff like that are kind of funny that you would like to share?
I mean, there was nothing really egregious, I suppose. It was just one of those things. It was a bit of a kind of like, there's a few bad ferments here and there and everything. Just trying to dial everything in, and it was tough. It was literally, because I'd had no brewing experience whatsoever. I like to think that I know my way around gin a little bit.
I would say you do.
I think thank you, you've been very kind. But brewing and making whiskey, I mean, the brewing aspect of whiskey is where it all boils down to, and it's insane.
So that's a contentious point there, in that there are there's a lot of different opinions on the impact of the brewing process, the ferment process, the yeast, as to whether any of those things actually impart any flavor. I think from our side, 100%, all of those things are involved in creating the end product, and guaranteed, if you have a really shitty ferment, then you're going to have different flavors than what you were intending.
100%. I mean, and you'll probably hear me drop his name quite a lot during the course of this chat. But Desmond Payne, the master distiller at Beefeater, we were talking about things in factors in gin, and everything makes a difference. Literally everything. The tiniest tweak here and there in a gin recipe, whether you had this much orris or this or whatever. But everything makes a difference. So whether you've got a decent mill on your grain, whether you've got a decent extract quality from your barley strain, what yeast strain you're using. Funny, I sound like a brilliant what I'm talking about. But everything makes a difference. I mean, you get one of those things wrong along the way, and it changes the outcome dramatically, especially when you're compounding any mistake that you might make down the line. Everything's getting amplified because you're essentially just removing water through the entire thing. Yeah,
absolutely.
So, I'm in utter awe of brewers, because we had a guy come in the other day who's been a brewer for 15 years, and down at Hickson House we had to replace an auger, and while we were waiting for the auger to straighten out, he was helping. We were running around talking about stuff, and he's asking me questions about this, and this, and this. I'm like, what? What's that? Should I be doing that? And admittedly, beer and whiskey are different things, but there's a lot of common stuff.
Fundamental base,
exactly,
between shared amongst both whiskey and beer. The main difference is obviously there's another process, and whiskey doesn't use hops.
Yeah.
Or
Well, until quite recently was because there's a lot more hot whiskies coming out now as well. But
yeah. And
it's insane. I mean,
so what did you learn? What did you learn from that short conversation that you should be doing that you weren't?
It was actually more about waste disposal stuff than anything else. Really, the real fun, romantic stuff.
Oh
Side of it, yeah.
Yeah. Grain, disposal.
Racking arms and filtration and trub disposal and all the things that people who get really misty-eyed about whiskey want to hear about.
That is sexy stuff, though. Oh, love it.
pHs and buffering solutions and fun things.
Absolutely, your water profile. It's all the difference in your brew. Particularly, you can taste that particularly when in a beer, less so I think in the whiskey, but it still I'm sure has a place in there. So from Manly, obviously now through to Hickson House, how'd that come about?
Well, kind of, I suppose in its element, really, Hickson House was always the idea. So Mikey Enright, who is the owner of the barbershop and the Duke of Clarence in Sydney, so one of the best gin bars in the world, and the Duke of Clarence, an English pub, which is frankly my home away from home. Him and I have been mates for years. We ended up, we used to bump into each other around the traps, all the bar shows and all the whatnot around the world. And him and I ended up having a chat. We bumped into each other in some dive bar in New Orleans at Tales of the Cocktail back in 2016. And he'd got wind of the fact that I was moving to Australia. And he said, all right, I'm flying out on Saturday. Let's grab breakfast and have a chat. So this was after the Spirited Awards at Tales of the Cocktail. So the most hungover breakfast that probably ever existed in the world ever. Both of us shaking,
having the shakes.
Anyway, and he's like, hey mate, I hear you moving to Australia. Do you want to do something together? He said, I've been thinking about doing my, our own gin and whatnot for the barbershop and everything. I'm like, absolutely, let's do this, because we've been mates for a long time, and I really respected what he's done and what he's achieved, and we had a similar kind of ethos about gins and things. But timing didn't work out, obviously. So I ended up, looking for another job. Got the job at Manly Spirits. But at the back of my mind, there was always this idea, and then we ended up kind of reprising conversations, and I ended up coming on board with him and his business partner Julian Train in February 2020. The pair of them had been toying with the idea of doing a distillery for a while, and they wanted to sort of get me on board. So Julian's well into his whiskey, Mikey's well into his gin. And so February 2020, I came on board, and then the pandemic hit. And
well, distilling is probably one of the most pandemic forgiving vocations there is, isn't there?
Well, but building a distillery is not particularly.
No, building one, no. If it's already there, certainly.
But actually, it was quite interesting because the pandemic kind of was a blessing and a curse for us. So I joined in February, and we were in the office on York Street and doing little tests and stuff. And then the pandemic hit, and we all, retreated to our own little enclaves. But what a lot of people don't have when they're building a distillery is a year and a half to sit in the garage and basically test recipes.
Yeah.
Which we were blessed with, you know. So long before the 5K radius thing came in and everything, but in the first lockdown, I'd be sat in my garage in Brookvale with the test still, and you know, basically cracking out about 5 different batches of gin a day, and evenings got hazy occasionally.
I bet.
Sometimes my tasting notes were a little not particularly legible the following day.
Yeah, it's just scribble in a line.
Yeah, like a spider who crawled through an ink pot. But no, so I'd spend a week doing recipe development and whatnot, and then on a Thursday I'd bottle up samples and drive up to Jules's house and leave a package on his doorstep, knock on the door, run away, and then go down to Mikey's house and do the same, and then drive back to mine, and we then sit on Zoom and do a tasting and write notes. So yeah, I mean, you know, while it was tough, you know, it gave us this time to actually sit and properly develop gins. So by the time we actually found a venue, excuse me, recipes were done and we could concentrate on the build.
Okay. So tell me about your test still.
Oh, a little 700 milliliter laboratory still, Pyrex boiling tube, Libby condenser, and rigged up to a 20 liter Bunnings bucket and a fish tank pump.
So proper mad scientist stuff.
Yeah, I think most distillers have to suffer the Breaking Bad comments quite a lot these days. So I've had a few of those.
Yeah.
So how many gins have you now got at Hickson House?
We have 3, which we launched with.
Yep.
We have the Aussie Dry, which I have a bottle of here, coincidentally.
Here's one I had earlier.
There you go. Here's one I had a couple of G&Ts with earlier. And a London Dry, and our version of a classic Navy strength, which we call Harbour Strength, because of where we are.
Of course, that makes perfect sense. I did have the tasting flight of all 3. I thoroughly enjoyed them all, and I think my favorite was the dry.
Yeah, we find it's a 50-50 split between the Aussie and the London.
Yeah, right. So what is it about gin that gets you?
Oh, I don't know. It's a weird one. It's just incredibly versatile. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have to kind of work to certain parameters. You know, juniper must be your main ingredient. But other than that, you can throw anything else you want in it, basically. So the scope is insane. You know, you can make a herbal gin, you can make a floral gin, you can make a spicy gin. It's just an incredibly versatile spirit. Just works well with pretty much anything you can throw in it.
Right.
Are you happy now that you don't have to go collect sea lettuce?
I think the less said about sea lettuce, the better.
I remember, I met you quite a few years ago, and
probably just after the sea lettuce incident.
Yeah, it was probably just after the sea lettuce incident. I know you probably don't want to talk about it, but for the listeners and everything at home, would you mind recapping the sea lettuce incident?
So at Manly, we obviously we were making the gin, and there were certain parameters that I had to work within when doing the gins there, and one of them was that sea lettuce, which if you don't know is a little type of seaweed, Ulva lactica, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm sure somebody will probably fact check me if I'm wrong.
Somebody
Anyway,
will.
it's a really lovely ingredient and great in salads, and and pretty good in gin as well. But grows wild, and one goes and generally forages for it. Anyway, we were under the pump a little bit to get a batch of gin out, and we were short on sea lettuce because it was a wild ingredient. And I ended up going down to the rock flats at South Curl up here on the northern beaches, and there's a particularly lovely patch of sea lettuce out there, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. We'll aim for that one. And sat on the rocks and waited. I counted the waves coming in. It was a bit rough that day. Bearing in mind, I've been in Australia for about 4 months and didn't quite understand just how hectic shit gets.
That sounds like an understatement.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, I took my work boots off. I was wearing my
That's a good start. That's a good
I was
start.
wearing my steel caps because I didn't want to get my work boots wet because they take a fucking week to dry. Anyway, so I rolled my trousers up, went down the rock flats and everything, and I'm cutting at this sea lettuce, and I look up and there's this big fuck off wave towering over me. And long story short, I'm quite lucky not to be a New Zealander right now.
Right. You nearly became a statistic.
Yeah, exactly. Cue a lot of scratched up feet, some scrubbing to get rid of oyster shells in the soles of my feet and whatnot.
But did you save the? No, did you save the lettuce?
Yeah.
Did I fuck?
There's some lettuce for you.
Lesson learned.
That is so appetizing,
isn't it?
Yeah. Now,
anyway,
what does sea lettuce impart into the gin? What are we getting?
A very nice salinity that is totally well worth the risk.
Right. Okay. So worth nearly dying for.
Sure.
I think we better just stick to having someone else do that, and we just drink the gin.
When I used to say there's blood, sweat, and tears in that gin, I wasn't lying.
So the salinity doesn't come from the tears, from the sea lettuce.
Oh gosh. So at Hickson, so you're doing your gins. You've got your 3 there at the moment, and you're doing whiskey now as well.
Yeah. That was a well. The amount of whiskey we're planning on doing was actually kind of not really in the plan. We initially thought we would probably just do a little 300-liter gin still and make some gin and maybe very, very quietly in the corner make some whiskey and not talk about it, and one day release a couple of casks. And we're very lucky to have this wonderful investor who comes from a Scottish background, and he kind of just really wanted to kind of work on it, and so things escalated quite considerably. So now we're producing about 5 barrels of whiskey a week,
Nice.
with the aim to do more.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So much for just quietly in the corner.
Yeah. We were supposed to be in a little warehouse in the corner, in the back end of Marrickville kind of thing, and the next thing you know, we're in a heritage building in the rocks.
Oh shit! You were almost my local.
Yeah,
that would have been lovely. Damn it.
Yeah. So here we are in the old Saatchi and Saatchi car park, making tons of whiskey and tons of gin now. So
Nice.
in a really quite beautiful venue. Like the fit out is stunning.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts actually. It's one of those weird ones where I've been so obviously up close to it the entire time, but I'm still so up close to it. I've yet to really comprehend what we've done. and what the bar guys have done. Yeah, I'm actually unable to take a step
That's
back.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, there's a step back. So obviously looking towards the two stills there, which are amazingly shiny.
Mm.
Oh, that's not an accident.
I know a lot of work goes into that.
Oh, no, lacquer.
I thought that was just Alex constantly going up to them and just cuddling
and just
them.
hugging it and just getting her sleeves and going like that.
Alex and her copper contact selfies are literally just her polishing the stills. Yeah.
She loves talking.
Yeah, she does. No. So actually, we agonized about this for a long time. We were like, okay, do we let the stills develop that lovely kind of patina that happens when you leave them be and they oxidize and everything, or do we polish them? And I was like, fuck that.
Done it once,
I
never.
think you were overridden by Alex in that one.
So we So we ended up with the choice of lacquering them. So
right,
which
well,
means
they very impressive.
Yeah.
So how long? When will the whiskey be, or how far into the whiskey journey are we at Hickson? We
literally I have literally finished barreling the first 10 barrels today.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Big day. Mark this day. Well, it will be in all perpetuity now on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Facebook Live. This is when it was announced that the 10 barrels were laid.
Yeah. Yesterday and today we barreled the first 10 barrels. And onward basically.
And what are you aiming for? What's
tasty whiskey?
Not shit.
Yeah.
Did you have a style or a profile in mind?
Yeah, I mean, our investors are quite sort of obviously, again, like I said, Scottish background, so we're doing Scotch style, malted barley. The idea at the moment is to lay down a load of that, but later on we'll be playing around with different mash bills and whatnot. We're looking at kind of playing around. We're not trying to sort of set our stall out really in certain cask type either. We've decided on X amount in bourbon cask because if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
It creates lovely whiskey and a great blending stock later on if you need it. But we're also kind of looking at doing a few more weird and wonderful esoteric casks as we go along.
Right. Nice.
Is there any special kind of like cask that you're dying to use? Like you just like, if I could get my hands on one of those one day, that's what I'm gonna use.
Yeah,
you had it in Stone's way.
Yeah, but kind of more in the barrel aged gin side of things, actually.
Yeah.
Well, that was my next question. Are you doing a barrel aged gin?
Maybe.
Maybe. That you can tell us about.
No. Well, I think, I don't know. Barrel aged gin kind of fascinates me a little bit. Sometimes it can really be brilliant. Sometimes I feel it kind of misses the mark a little bit. Sometimes I think flavor clashes in what's traditionally cask aged and the flavor profiles in gin don't necessarily go together very well. But I think there's a few things that could be amazing with gin. So I've got a couple of ideas that I'm gonna try and play with a little bit. But in terms of whiskey, I mean, there doesn't seem to be much that's not been done already. Obviously, bourbon cask is brilliant, and it creates a wonderful base whiskey. Here in Australia, the wine scene is incredible. So I think you'd be a fool not to do something in a little bit of wine cask. I'd love to play around with Mizunara. But unfortunately, I've not won the lottery just yet.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I mean, I a few years ago, I asked a barrel broker, said, roughly what are we looking at for a Mizunara cask, and he was sort of quoting at the time. He was quoting like $250 for a Heaven Hill bourbon cask, and like $350 for a Phoenix French oak, and so yeah, what about a Mizunara cask? He's like upwards of 20 grand.
Fuck.
Yeah. Pocket change.
Wow.
God, damn it, it's delicious.
Wow. That's that'll certainly bump up your bottle price.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really want a cask strength out of that, wouldn't you? You want to blend.
No, you would want all that has to offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're still paying thousands for a shot.
Well, I remember working when I was working at Beefeater. Was in the same office as all the Shivers Brothers guys, and Max Warner, the then long-term Shivers Regal brand ambassador. He had a bottle of the Shivers Regal Mizunara finish, which was the first time I ever came across it, and I was like, "Fuck, that's good." Just that lovely kind of green oak grassiness it gives. It was I was really lucky enough to go to Japan a lot with Beefeater, and we used to trawl around the Suntory distilleries.
Wow.
And all that Hakushu and Yamazaki and that, and
that's definitely my bucket list.
I love Mizunara.
Would you use that for your gin, barrel aged gins, or for your whiskies?
I actually hadn't made the connection of Mizunara for gin, but yeah, got it. Yeah, but let's do that.
Why not?
Well,
anybody fancies sponsoring a Mizunara cask for some gin, then let me know.
Look, we'll put out the call and you'll get $1 maybe.
Sweet.
It all helps. It all helps.
Every little helps.
So where to on the gin front now? Then with Hickson, you've got your 3 out there, and are you going to be doing some sort of experimental releases? Are there going to be special releases? What's happening there?
Well, we're still very, very new, so
so everything's experimental.
Yeah, basically. We literally launched the brand in early December last year. So what we're trying to do is actually kind of gain a footing for the 3 SKUs we have at the moment. Our flagship being the Australian dry gin, which I'm super proud of. But at the same time, during that time in lockdown, there's another sort of 2-3 recipes that have been done, which are sat waiting on the back burner to decide whether or not we're gonna release them or not.
Right.
Can you talk us through a little bit of the profiles of the Australian gin that you have?
Yeah, totally. It's I'm very much a gin traditionalist. I come from a very classic London dry gin background. So for me, a gin needs to be juniper forward and needs to be very, very balanced. Desmond used to talk about making gin in terms of like a spectrum. So at one end you have citrus, moving into floral, moving into the core of juniper, moving into spice, and moving into earthiness. And it's like, if you can pick, aside from the juniper core, another couple of points on that spectrum, you've generally got a pretty well balanced gin. And I kind of tend to approach making a gin recipe like that. And that's definitely what I've tried to do with the Aussie Dry. So it's a classic base of the unofficial 4 London Dry Botanicals, which are, if you don't know, for those listening, it's juniper, obviously must be the main one, angelica root, coriander seed, and orris root, which are pretty much present in every single London Dry gin you've ever tasted, with very, very few exceptions. Reason being, I mean, that it's a base and it works, and it's delicious. On top of that, we went for the citrus side of things, which pick up the sort of top notes. We've got orange peel, which is very classic, but is delicious in gin.
Yeah.
And finger lime, which again, it's been used a lot, but it's used a lot because it's amazing.
It's damn good.
Yeah, totally. We then have licorice, which gives licorice root, which gives mouthfeel, aniseed myrtle because it's delicious.
And it's also an Australian native. There you go.
Exactly. I forget what else is there. Oolong tea.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Bit of a weird one, but this was a nod to Desmond because he was the first guy to put tea in gin, as far as I know, with BP at 24. I couldn't use green tea because he'd give me shit for plagiarizing him. So I used oolong because it's got nice apricot-y notes, but you actually don't taste the oolong. It kind of just rounds everything out. And the one for me that really sets the Aussie Dry aside is native thyme.
Right.
Which I discovered a few years ago and distilled on its own. I was like, that's just phenomenal. I need to do something with that in the future.
Yeah.
So that's basically what makes it up, and the idea being it's just a really good balanced gin that highlights what's great about classic gin styles, but also what's great about Aussie gin styles as well.
Yeah, right.
I was actually asked yesterday. I did a trade tasting here in Sydney, and somebody asked me, so why do you go down this route for the Aussie Dry? Was it because there was a niche in the market that was missing and all that? And then I said, I'm sorry, but frankly, it was way more selfish than that. It was actually just to make a gin that I would enjoy drinking.
Yeah.
So
That's the best reason to distill anyway.
Sorry.
There's nothing wrong with making a gin that you want to drink and having it just,
No,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
The one that you don't want to drink.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Actually, it was a really nice development process actually, because once we were out of lockdown, we had in the barbershop just this amazing resource of, you know, pretty much every gin that's commercially available in Australia, and a bunch of bartenders and, you know, owners and managers who were at the top of their game when it came to gin drinks. We would do weekly tastings of all this stuff, and there'd be all these opinions and everything, and sometimes I'd just turn around and tell them that they're completely wrong. But for the most part, you know, it was lovely to have this input from all these guys who are just, you know, amazing at what they do, and giving this input on the development process, because I think a lot of people don't have that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think Crafty's got the Craftworks Inner Circle, which I think is actually quite a large circle, I think, and
it's very intimate. Our inner circle.
So I think that's also one of the I guess great things about the Australian distilling industry is everyone is willing to help everybody else, and everybody wants to be involved in the process and see everybody else succeed. So that's cool.
I have to say, since being an outsider here, really, it was very, very interesting seeing the Australian attitude towards craft distilling versus the English attitude.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the time you'd find in the UK someone's put their heart and soul into something, and they have their gin, and they're very proud of it and everything. And obviously, because they lack the economies of scale, there's a premium to it.
Mhm.
So you find people be going, oh, that's really, really nice, but I'm going to go and buy a bottle of fucking Gordon's right now because that's 10 quid in the supermarket rather than 30 quid in the cellar door. But one thing that's really lovely here, and I think is testament to the whole Australian craft distilling scene, is the fact that you do have locals who are very, very keen to pay well over the odds for a locally produced thing. And I just think that whole kind of like fair go, give everyone a stab, and support your local guy is a really, really cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was really the standout for me when I sort of started distilling over here.
So a question for our two gin distillers. What are your thoughts on the zero alcohol gins that are now available in all supermarkets, whether they're good or not, selling for $35, $40 or more a bottle? How do you think that affects the actual gin market?
Tim, do you want to go first?
No, not really. I
like to ask controversial questions.
Right in there.
I don't know. I've actually yet to really. I actually haven't given it a proper amount of thought yet. I think it's amazing that there's these non-alcoholic spirits going out there because, let's face it, it's a market and it's needed and it's great. I mean, long gone are the times where you go into a bar and have a virgin pina colada and sit on those for the rest of the night. You need something grown up and everything. $40 a bottle. I do think that you're still essentially, aside from the alcohol, you're still using hopefully quality raw ingredients. So there is an argument that yes, that's what it costs, and therefore that's what it's worth. We'll see. I don't know.
So diplomatic.
Yeah, I don't really like. As far as when it comes to alcohol sales and non-alcoholic gin sales, is I don't really have like too much of a qualm between that, because if someone wants to buy alcohol, they're going to buy alcohol. If someone doesn't want to buy alcohol, they're not going to buy alcohol. The qualm I would say that I kind of have with it, like it don't get me wrong, it doesn't keep me up at night or anything like that. I'm not stressed about it. It's just little things that kind of niggle at me. So it's just like when it's called like a non-alcoholic gin actually does have a legislative range of ABV. And so it kind of just is a middle finger to that. And because gin is really trendy, especially in this current climate, it's kind of just, I see it as kind of like not piggybacking off it, but just kind of trying to like just grab the clout off that a little bit and use it as like this is just as trendy as gin, but like, you don't get drunk off it or whatever. And it's just like, and it's lower calories, but it's just like, it's not technically drink. It's like when you make spirit or something like that. Like for instance, I come from a rum background. So it's just like, if I was to release, new make rum or something like that from the still, and was to release it, it would be classed as like a molasses spirit drink. And that's technically what, like, in terms of what you name things in their class, it's not a gin at all. It's a gin flavored drink, which sounds way less appealing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't like the term non-alcoholic spirit, because spirit is in itself, like to your point, its own classification.
Yeah, it's a spirit.
Yeah. I would prefer to see something like botanical drink, but that's
way prettier than like gin flavored drink.
That's not hitting those touchstones that everyone is looking for.
Yeah, because like I don't think like a gin drinker who typically just like, you know, wants to have a night off drinking gin with their friends or whatever, would typically lean for like botanical flavored drink rather than a non-alcoholic gin.
What
per
about
se.
flower water? Should we go with flower water?
Oh, I would drink flower water.
It's a funny one. It's a funny one. It sparked a lot of debate. I mean, I disagree with the use of the term spirit because it's not a spirit, and I disagree with the use of the term gin because it is not a gin. Because to your point, there are legislative things that delineate
protects that. Yeah.
Exactly. I know. I think we need to find a common ground. We used to have this argument at Beefeater a lot, where sorry, I'm referencing this, but it's part of my history. We would there was a big thing about what actually constituted a gin and whether certain gins were necessarily gin, given their perhaps lack of juniper as a dominant flavor profile. And we'd always talk about, well, we don't mind, we don't want them to call gin because juniper's not your main thing, but botanical spirit is a perfectly acceptable, catch-all term for everything. But it's not as emotive. It doesn't pique the interest of the consumer as much as botanical spirit does. So
there's a name I haven't seen yet. The eccentric electrician.
I love it.
Love it. Not your taste.
But he's right. But he's right. I want half the issue with alcoholic beverage substitutes. Maybe we should call them that. Is that alcohol is a fixative. Alcohol holds and binds flavors together. So you're never going to get that flavor hit that you would from a gin in a non-alcoholic juniper drink, shall we say? It's a very valid point. So I remember many years ago trying a very well-known brand of non-alcoholic gin, inverted commas, in a martini, and just being very, very disappointed. But having the same product as a gin and tonic kind of thing was very, very different. It's long drinks are the friends for these non-alcoholic versions for sure.
Right. Okay, that's interesting.
But generally speaking, they just don't have the flavor carry because they don't have that chemical element to them that does that.
Right.
I only ever bought one non-alcoholic gin, and the thing went off in the bottle because it was nasty. It had little growths growing through it after a couple of months.
Oh,
lovely.
See, you need
I'm
to
sure they don't tell that to the average consumer.
So that's truly botanical.
Yeah, wow.
It was making its own botanicals, yeah.
Botanicals, yeah.
So it was nasty.
So another shared, I guess, gin question for you both there is, what's the weirdest botanical you've seen used in a gin that worked?
Oh, that worked.
Oh, that worked.
Oh,
Jinx.
Well, you can go didn't work as well if you like, but let's go with what
I'm sure there's a lot of shit that doesn't work, but what's something that you thought, nah, can't possibly, and you're like, all right.
Other than sea lettuce. Oh man, that's a good question. I don't know. I can't think of anything else in my head.
Or is there an ingredient that you haven't seen used that you would like to try?
I think everything, pretty much everything's been used now, at least commercially, that works, that's commercially viable. One I know that that doesn't work was grapefruit and coconut together.
Grapefruit and coconut, okay.
Yeah.
Are they trying to be like a coconut rum type thing, or
No.
just
Yeah, it came out when I was still a bartender in London. I mentally went through sort of the Rolodex of cocktails in my head. I was like, are there any drinks that contain grapefruit and coconut? And no, there's not. And that should probably have been a red flag for everybody.
That was the first hint, anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I think most things that are workable have probably been done now, to be honest. Yes, Ants did work
Ants
well.
did
I'm
work well.
surprised by that.
I would like to see like I know that liqueurs have been made out of it, but I would love to actually see marula in an actual gin just to see how it goes. But I can't really get
What's
marula.
marula?
It's
what
like
is
a
marula?
South African or an African kind of fruit rather, and elephants eat it and they get drunk off it and just stagger around.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's fruity, it's nutty. Yeah. I just think it would be really interesting to have as a gin botanical. I haven't been able to get my hands on any. But if anyone has done
so
it.
it looks
That
sort
would
of
be awesome.
like a lychee almost.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and
Bring it up so the rest of us can see.
bring it up. Yeah, patience, precious patience.
Come on, I'll see it now.
Fucking Jesus. Here you go. Here it comes. It's uploading. Still uploading. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it,
you
like
sort of-
once it like elephants.
I'm assuming it's like drops and ferments, and then they eat it, and
Yeah. And
Hilarity-
elephants like actively
hilarity
seek it
ensues.
from the tree as well, just before it's about to fall, and other animals come and gather around, and they're like, "Hey, it's a party." Yeah.
Actually, having said that, I swung by the supermarket on the way home tonight, and to get something for dinner, and there's durian in my local Woolies.
Yeah.
I'd love to do something with durian.
Yeah, they're
That'd
quite
be
an obscure looking fruit.
Yeah. Kaffir lime leaves, galangal and lemongrass in a green curry. The worst in a green.
It sounds like a delicious meal.
I've had some average gins that contained galangal for sure.
Yeah.
But Thai lime is a great ingredient.
Mm.
Especially when
Liming.
you get like the really like the new leaves, so they're darker in color and they're a bit more shiny. Those ones are really, really powerful to work with.
I've actually always found as well, and there's obviously exceptions to the rule, but if your ingredient has a really high water content, it doesn't work as well as something that is either dried or has a low water content.
Right. Okay. Is that because you end up stripping out a lot of that flavor with the water,
Water is not a flavor carrier, so if you the concentration of oil is lower in a high water content ingredient, so you get less out of it. So, for example, when we say we use finger lime, we actually use powdered dried finger lime. Because all of that water content's been removed, and all you're left with is oil.
Yeah.
Because oil doesn't necessarily dry out so much during that process, and it's got a huge, and because it's powdered, your contact area, I suppose, is much greater, so you get much more extraction out of it.
Okay, so then when you're using that, are you, and I guess with all of your gins, are you soaking the botanicals? Are you whacking them in the basket? Are you distilling them individually and then blending them? What's your process?
So I was taught to make gin in the London dry style, which basically means you throw everything you've got, which is your natural product, in the still at the same time and distill it. And you're not allowed to do anything to it post distillation other than add water to it, basically, to drop into bottling strength. That's just how I was taught. I've actually never used a gin basket.
Ever?
No, I've never used one. Just because I haven't really had the chance to. Well, sorry, excuse me. I've had the chance to. I've just chosen to do things the way that I was taught, and they've worked, and never then had the time to sort of sit down and properly experiment with it. And I've actually not done individual distillates. But here in Australia, that's actually a wonderful way of making a gin, because so many native ingredients are so completely seasonal, and they fluctuate in availability and quality, that it's a great way of utilizing what you've got seasonally, stockpiling it, and then later on you can blend it to ensure you have a product that's consistent year and year round. I guess I'm just slightly stuck in my ways.
How do you control that consistency? I guess a question for both Tim and Ali. How do you control the consistency of the output when it is the botanicals themselves are a variable?
Ali, you've got way more experience in this than I have, so.
Well, it's just a matter of like that's the beauty of being like my size and scale of things is like there's a little bit more kind of allowance in that kind of thing. But when things are in season, we tend to bulk up our production of that spirit a little bit more and keep a bit more of it on hand.
Do you guys distill individually and then blend?
Oh, no. So we do everything vapor infused. We direct macerate juniper for one of ours prior to distillation. But yeah, everything for us is vapor infused, including with our vodka as well. So yeah, it just adds a bit more of like a delicate kind of, there's my girl.
Yes. Crack gin, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. So with that as well, we have our botanical, like a lot of those botanicals for both of our gins are grown on premise, including the Backhausia citrodora, which is more commonly known as the lemon myrtle. We've got rose geranium, which grows in our distillery garden, as well as some citruses and citruses from around the region. So we have a very big kind of like, we're in contact with all of like the farmers and stuff like that. And we grab a huge bulk of stuff, including like pomegranate. So whenever that's in season, I'm just spending days de-seeding that. And yeah, just what you can do is just like freeze some of it. Like, so the pomegranates, for instance, you can de-seed them, freeze them, and just hope that no one eats them during the time that you're not using them. And is
that a small dig at somebody within the distilling team?
No, it was actually maybe a little bit myself. When we used to have our cellar door before the bar, I would do a de-seeding day while I'm manning the cellar door, and I would have customers just going, "Oh wow, free pomegranate, nice, I love this." And I'm like, "Oh, please do not eat my pomegranate. I need this." Yeah. And then like I'll have pomegranate all over my face, like just splatters, and everyone's like, "Where's Nick?" And I'm like, about that.
It looked like a murder scene.
Yeah, it literally looks like a murder scene.
I guess from my point of view, what we try to do is obviously, different. Native time is a good example of how it sort of tends to fluctuate from season to an area. It can actually go from stinking like weed to being quite sort of menthol like. So we kind of assess each batch as it comes in and try to kind of blend everything together to sort of maintain almost like a signature blend of native time for each subsequent batch.
Right.
But it is when you live in a country where native botanicals are so incredibly seasonal, it can be a challenge to kind of keep on top of that. Sure.
So an interesting comment come through from our eccentric Sparky, talking about distilling mandarin. It comes out electric blue.
I feel like I've heard this I've heard a rumor of something like this before. I haven't. done it.
It's-
I mean,
It feels like maybe someone told me that in a dream. I don't know, but
Is
Well,
it
have they
a
cleaned
pH
it?
thing? Is it a pH thing? Because you've got, there's a lot of acidity within the mandarin peel that's stripping copper out the still.
That's what I think.
Because I've done.
Yeah, like moonshine. A lot of moonshiners, if they don't clean their still, then it gets the oxidization, and their spirit comes out blue.
Yeah, because if you you kind of pickle a still before you run a run a batch on it. So normally, for example, when we commission dars, you boil a lot of water through it, and then you do we did a caustic and then a citric acid clean, and all the citric acid pulled out all the copper sulfate.
Yeah, right.
So
could be a thing.
Blue. Yummy.
Yeah, so think twice when you have a blue gin.
Yeah, I mean, there are blue gins, certainly. There's the color change ones, the ones that you whack your soda in and it goes darker blue, or tonic, it goes purple. Are they just novelties, do you think?
Yeah, but you know what? If it gets people buying gin, go for it.
Yeah, that blue's not anything to do with copper, though. It's more butterfly pea flower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do have a couple of those on my shelf, and they are very, very nice.
I'm such a sucker for anything like color changey. So, hence I have a product called G&T, which is tea bags that flavor.
Do you still have global hypercolor t-shirts?
Pardon?
Do you have global hypercolor t-shirts?
Is that the ones that change color in the heat?
I'm not showing my age and different countries here.
Is that the ones that change color in the heat?
Yeah, when you sweat.
Yeah. No, they were huge in the 90s.
Huge in the 80s, yeah.
I remember having to buy that stuff. It was awful.
I remember being devastated when my mum put mine through the tumble dryer and ruined it.
Yeah. I remember my sisters had like a 90210 shirt like that, and it was like tie dye, and the tie dyes used to change color with the heat. It was so retro. And then I wanted to have it as a hand me down to wear nowadays, but it's long gone.
Did it change so many colors so many times it's now just brown? Or
it went just yellow out of it was yellow and white. And it just had 90210 and a big circle with whatever slogan it was. I never actually watched the show. But yeah.
Right. Yeah, you didn't watch the show. I don't believe that for a second.
I literally was not old enough to comprehend it.
But no, to your point, pea flower, etc.
Yeah.
Interesting things. Whatever gets people drinking gin.
Yeah.
Right. So where do you think has everything been done with gin? Is there any room for excitement and something new in gin now? I love that.
That was a serious pregnant pause, that one.
Go fuck yourself, pause that one.
I love to be surprised by things. I love seeing what other people kind of have done, because every distiller's interpretation of gin is a little bit different, and I think that's what just keeps it kind of fresh and chill. But there's always people out there doing
is exciting in its own right.
Yeah, and so there's always gin is, in my opinion, almost infinite. So it can go on forever, and you're bound to get excited by something again. I'm still getting excited by gins and stuff like that. And there's so many gins that are yet to be born yet. So and so many impressive things that are yet to be thought about. So that's something to look forward to, and something,
absolutely. Do you think we could see other things like the green ant gin, if you can see the little floaties in there?
I reckon pink elephant gin will come out.
I think that would be amazing.
I reckon a pink elephant would be a lot easier to catch than those little green ants.
You can't get them in the post though.
just no witchy grub gin, please.
Could that be like the tequila worm?
Potentially, yeah. I mean, I agree with Ali. I mean, there's a lot of things yet to be done. I mean, there's obviously you've got juniper as your core, but once you've got that, you can use whatever you want, you know. So there's so many different combinations still left to be done. Yeah, I think I was asked many years ago how long I thought the gin craze would last, and then and I called it about 10 years ago. I was like, I reckon it's going to last another 5 years, and I was very, very wrong. And I'm happy to be very, very wrong because it's keeping me in business.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many things left to try, and I think there's so many flavor combinations left to go, and just you know, for every 10 that are just wrong, there's something that's, you know, delicious.
Yeah. Harking back to your days as a bartender, back behind the bar, mixing drinks.
I'm not sure I can recall those, but yeah, carry on.
Try. It's a long time. I'm sure it's a long time ago, but try. What makes a gin stand out on the shelf amongst the 1,000 others that you've got there? What do you think makes a great label and
oh God,
something that stands out?
Well, you see, I when I was a bartender, there wasn't that many. We had literally like the classics, you know, Beefeater, Tanqueray, Gordon's, Bombay, Plymouth, and then later on sort of Hendrix and stuff. I don't know. It's that little kind of, you know, je ne sais quoi, isn't it? I mean, this is ours. So we spent a year doing this, just back and forth with a branding company, working on font and label design and name and all that lot. You know, and it you know, this sort of stands out. I think there's a lot of gins out there. If it's going to stand out in a bar, it needs to be relatively simple. But then again, I'm a traditionalist, so. But also obviously look at the gin that you bought earlier today. So you bought that because
I bought that based on the pretty bottle.
Ready.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, and I think and this is definitely where sort of gin's going at the moment. So if you look at, you know, classic gin branding, they're all old family names from London. You know, in the late 1700s and 1800s. That you know that they're very, very classic, generally. So people have moved away from that into something a bit more interesting. So I don't know. It depends who you're appealing to. I think from our perspective, because of our backgrounds and the people behind the company, we're appealing to people who already know that they like gin, and you know, we have. So we're trying to prove, you know, trying to show we have a foot in traditionalism, but also a foot in, you know, modern stuff. But then you've got people who are very, very new to gin, as all these, you know, gin shows kind of prove, that who are looking for, you know, pretty stuff, so to speak. You know, if you look at how wine's progressed in the last sort of 10, 20 years, it's gone from super kind of austere, you know, French style labeling to, you know, again, floral and into minimalist and whatnot. I mean, fuck, I go into a bottle shop to buy a bottle of wine, and I know what I like. I have a reasonable, you know, grasp of wine and what goes into it. But I'll still go, oh, that label's really pretty.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just can't help yourself.
Exactly.
Different, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I'm rambling a little, but I suppose it depends on your target demographic. Sorry, Todd.
No, someone once asked us how we selected our wines, and we told them that we buy wine that has a little animal on it. And ever since then, this particular person has bought wine that's had a little animal on it.
On it.
I'm a sucker for an animal on a wine bottle.
Yeah.
If there's a fucking pig or a sheep or whatever on it, I'm buying it. Because obviously it's made by people who own farms and stuff like that.
Yeah, they're obviously grassroots people. They're the salt of the earth, and makes sense.
In no way has a multi-million company hired a marketing team to do this.
No, not at all. It's all homemade stuff. Now, we've going back just a little bit, talking about the future of has everything been done in gin. I thought this was quite interesting. Changes in the process. So there's a gin made in Camden Town that filters through straw, which imparts interesting hay sweetness. I had never heard of that before.
I've never heard of that either.
News to me. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was a vodka from Russia that was that claimed it was filtered over the breasts of models. And that was their selling point.
Wow.
No, true story.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Smooth.
This, however, I feel is progress.
So that's actually quite interesting. Different processes rather than different botanicals. Okay. I wonder how that could be extrapolated out. What other processes you could think of? Could that be an Aussie twist on that? Be filtering through eucalypt leaves rather than hay.
Well, essentially what you've got here, you've got a slightly swifter maceration, really. So it kind of, this has been done for years and years. If you look at slow gins, for example, so you've taken gin, you've put the slows on it and left it for a year and added sugar. So you're effectively doing stuff that's been done a long time ago. Yeah. But to your point, there could be some really interesting results by doing stuff that's not necessarily done. I actually quite like the idea of that. I think that's quite interesting.
I wonder if it would give it kind of like a really, because like there's different styles of gin, and I think like Geneva was like the more medicinal kind of really rough kind of version with it's escaping me now what the base is made from, which gives it more of kind of like a grainy kind of characteristic. I wonder if it will give it something.
Geneva is essentially, your happy coincidence between unaged whiskey and malt spirit meets juniper. So having said that, the filtering through hay, it seems to me very simply similar to Jabrovka, where you've got the bison grass vodka with the grass. And grassy notes are superb in a gin. So I'm actually, if our electrician friend is listening, I'd be really interested to see to know who actually has done that.
Let's see whether we get the name of that distillery, because that would be quite interesting. I guess there are so many possibilities with it, not just the botanicals, but the process as well. The specific combination of that, endless. Are you going to? I know Ali is. Well, Karu is going to Gin-Palooza on the weekend.
I will be there for the bump out shift on the Sunday night.
Right. Very good. Ali, are you coming down, or are you sending minions?
I am sending my beloved minions. I've got to distill on the weekend, and I've also got to help be the runner for the bar as well, because they constantly need ice and Crafty's not available.
This is what happens when you're established like you, Ali. You get to have minions. I don't have minions just yet.
Oh, it's taken so long to have minions. I love them. I love them to absolute death. If any of them are listening to me right now, I love you.
Lovely promo stuff. I'm not going to call them minions anymore. In Melbourne, they were great.
I think they always need to be called minions, and they love it. They love it. They absolutely love it. I will be there. I'm quite looking forward to going and starting to drink at 10:30 in the morning.
Those days are so like, I remember back when, before I worked in the industry, I was like a punter at a lot of alcohol events, and my God, like I would never be able to do it now, and I don't know how people end up doing things like gin palooza as a punter.
It's always the Saturday evening sort of shift that
freeloading before a night out.
Yeah, when you have to just shuffle people along.
Half itch. Yeah, I've heard of half itch. I didn't know they were doing that though.
Right, I'm going to have to look it up now.
Done.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I wonder if we can get that here in Australia.
Yeah, I'm really interested to try that.
Getting anything from that's craft from overseas is bloody difficult, especially at the moment. Is there anything that you've come across overseas that you can't get here in Australia that you wish you could?
Yeah, there's one for me. I really wish I could get hold of a bottle of Beefeater London Garden edition.
Right. Why?
Slight nostalgia for me because it was the first MPD project of Beefeater that I got to be involved in, and secondly, it's fucking delicious.
Good reason. Very good.
Yeah. It was basically a visitor center only edition of Beefeater that had more juniper, lemon verbena, and thyme in it, and it remains one of the best gins I've ever had.
Right. Well,
if anyone's flying from London anytime soon,
duty free?
No, very strictly,
very strictly only. Yeah, right. Well, look, we've made it to the hour and a half marks on a Thursday night. I reckon we call it there, unless we have any more questions coming in from the audience. In the meantime, though, we haven't done throw Todd under the bus.
We don't have to.
This sounds exciting.
It's sort of payback for me being quiet. Usually because I can't get word in edgewise.
So we have a wonderful little
everyone's blocking out now.
No, they're not yet. Hold on. We've got it here. I've got to load up the Todd sting just for shits and giggles.
And now it's time for Throw the Todd under the bus.
Excellent. It's always as catchy as the theme song.
Yeah, I spent.
I actually come up with a question.
Are there any more good questions, Todd?
Well, the one question I wanted to ask is to the two crafters. Yeah, is when you're crafting a new gin, what's your process? What little secrets can you pass to those of us that are starting to think that we might need to start doing this ourselves?
Tim?
Use less than you think you need. I think what a lot of distillers do is throw too much stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
Use less.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Less is more. You can always add. You can't take away.
Mm-hmm.
That's very true.
Good point.
Good advice.
Yeah.
Very good.
For me, when I would say is something may sound good in theory, but when it's translated to distillation, it can be shit, like really bad. So, yeah.
All come out blue.
Yeah, all come out blue. There you go.
At least clean still.
Yeah.
No, it shouldn't be blue.
No, it shouldn't be blue.
I'll take that on board. Well, look, thank you very much, guys, for joining us this evening. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you
Tim
very much.
of Hickson House, of course.
Thanks, Tim.
You can go and see,
Thank you, guys.
sample Tim's work at Hickson House in the Rocks, which is
Seriously recommend you get yourself along there. It's great.
It's a beautiful
Someone actually commented earlier that they tasted them all and liked them. So thank you. So you're the one.
I'm sure there's way more than that.
I like them. That's
Okay,
good.
amazing. All right, good.
Yeah. So definitely get along if you're in Sydney, if you're in the Rocks. If you're not in the Rocks and you're not in Sydney, get there because Hickson House is just one of those venues that's gorgeous. It's so good. The fact that you can see the viewing window and it's like going to the zoo, and like you see the gorillas.
Yeah.
In the
behind the glass.
Yeah.
I
thankfully, there's glass there, so he can't throw shit at you.
I tend not to throw stuff too much, so you'd be fine.
So definitely get out to see Hickson House, and of course all the socials and whatnot are on the website. Thank you to our Crafty stand-in, much better looking, much more intelligent, and much more punctual.
Punctual, I'll take. Thank you guys so much for having me, and thank you so much, Tim Stones.
Thank you very much.
It's been really great. So definitely make sure, if you haven't already, get a bottle of the Lightning Gin. That is my favorite. Get a bottle of the Hickson. Get a bottle of that. I'll be getting a bottle of that. Or the lovely lady herself, the Marita Chipotle vodka.
Oh, this is. I tried this in Melbourne for the first time, and I have to say this is delicious.
Oh, thank you. It's a lot of hand de-seeding chilies by hand. I don't know why anyone doesn't want to help me.
It's worth the labor.
Thank you so much.
I really liked it.
Yeah, that means a lot coming from you. Thank you.
Yeah, really, really good. So definitely get out to see Karoo in the mountains and check out the bar, the new bar that is now open, and
the free pomegranate.
Yeah, and the free pomegranate that's just lying around for people to graze on.
It's there. If it's not there, ask for it.
Please don't ask for it.
And of course, if you are lucky enough to be going to Gympalooza, then you can sample the Karoo wares there over the weekend. Thank you very much, guys. It's been awesome. And please like, subscribe, follow on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Amazon podcasts, fucking everywhere. Just hit the like button, and we've even had people leave reviews on iTunes. We can't read them because there's not enough of them. So a few more, and then maybe we can read them. So that'd be
so. Please give us a review so we can read what people have sent us.
Yeah,
I'm on it now.
Yeah, cool, tough, awesome. Thank you very much. It's been a wonderful evening. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers. Oh, fuck! I finished my glass. Cheers.
One, two.